Welcome to Real Estate in Real Time. I'm Woody Zimmerman here with Mark Skabowski of Remax Lakes. Welcome to the show.
Here we are, morning.
Good morning, and we got this. We have a really interesting show to talk about today.
Well, it's interesting to us. I don't know if it's going to be interesting to anybody.
Hopefully it is.
Hopefully it's
Yeah.
interesting to people. But just thinking about it, I don't know. It's an election year.
It is.
So, does a presidential election impact the housing market?
And you did some research.
I did some research, and there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of information available, and you can slant things, I guess, however you choose to. I'm trying to be as neutral as I can in looking at this stuff, but I found some data that actually was pretty interesting for presidential election years. Right, every 4 years we go through this cycle.
Right.
And unfortunately this year it's getting nasty early.
You knew it would.
We knew it would.
I mean,
I won't get into political persuasion.
Right.
However, the choices that we have there. We got a couple of old guys out there. It'd be nice maybe to see something different out there as far as running. But the candidates we have are what we have, but the economy all hinges, or a lot of it hinges on the stuff that's going on in D.C. So that's why this is important
and how people feel
to the real estate market.
Yeah.
So ultimately, what I found is that home sales went up after 9 of the last 11 presidential elections.
Wow.
So that's interesting, right? I mean, that's good news.
Prices,
home sales, the number of sales increased.
Okay. The number of sales.
Number of sales
increased.
9 of the last presidential elections.
Okay, and people, the market heats up when people are feeling good about things.
Right,
typically,
that's right. And I guess maybe that's one way to look at it. Now, I guess the flip side of that is typically we sell more every year because there's more people out there buying.
True.
There's more population. We're doing it. So can you statistically say that the number of sales is directly related to the presidential election? I think you can say, as you mentioned, because the economy changes, we're in a holding pattern while we're getting to the election, because you don't know what it's going to be like after that. And then after that, there's certainty, at least for 4 years or 3 years till the next election cycle starts and all the things go. But what do we like as consumers? What do we like in general? Most people like certainty. We like to know what's going on.
Right.
So with that, things settle down. Once you get to the election phase, settles down, the economy typically, it either takes off or it tanks, right? I mean, you see that with the presidential election cycles.
You sure do.
Depending on what's going on, the economy changes. But in general, so the statistics I found, and there's this awesome graph here, I'll hold it up for you too. Look at that. Look at that awesome graph. Isn't that pretty? Can you see it?
I can.
There we go, Raj. Put that up there. Look at that. There we go. Wow. Zoom, zoom, zoom. It's amazing how that chart shows that as elections happen, 9 of the last 11, somebody's keeping track of it.
Yeah.
Things have improved. So along with that then, home prices went up after 7 of the last 8 presidential elections. Home prices went up. Now, this is where I guess real Mark comes in and you got it? Okay, home prices went up after 7 of the last elections. So in an election year, and this graph's got pretty colors, the year after the election, the only year when prices declined after an election is in orange, which Raj is holding up there right now, which was in 2009.
Well, 2009 was that was a tough year.
So
2008, 2009.
We're trying to link the election to the real estate market.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of other factors that impact what's going on in the housing market. So, this research, they pulled it together. We can put this data out and make it reflect what we think, and it's legit, it's statistical data. But there's a lot of other factors. It's not just the election year, in my opinion, that's driving this. Because 2009,
Yeah.
whew,
Yeah.
that was a rough one in the housing market.
Yeah, sure.
That was a really rough one. That 08-09 period, that was really rough. We're still dealing with those after effects even today.
Yeah.
You know, down the road, these number of years down the road, we're still dealing with those things. So home prices went up after 7 of the last 8 presidential elections. And these are median sales prices of existing single family. Doesn't have anything to do with, you know, new construction or anything. These are just existing single family homes. But I can tell you, in doing this research, I came up with new home builders. You know, we had a big drop off in the number of builders that were out there, the number of new housing starts and things like that, that I think we're just starting to recover from. If you look around Kosciuszko County right now, the number of new construction homes that are out there, builders are responding to the demand that's out there. Now, yes, prices are at a all-time high, but there was a time, I remember when I first got into real estate, which that was in 05, you know, we had, I think at that time, 17, the number 17 sticks in my head, of neighborhoods that were actively under construction and out there. 08-09, that decreased dramatically.
Oh, yeah, big time.
I mean, you'd see onesie, twosies popping up, but you didn't see developers coming in and developing like we're starting to see again. So I think builders are coming back and starting to put more homes out there on the market to meet that demand that we've got. And it may or may not be reflective of the presidential election year, but builders have seen an opportunity and seen that there's a need, and they're trying to step in and fill that need.
But because for the past several years, inventory has been the issue.
Inventory has been the issue, and then you talk housing prices, material prices, labor cost, all of those things impact. They all reflect on what happens with the election, and that's how it ties in with what the show is today.
All right. More on this topic coming up next. You're listening to Real Estate in Real Time. Welcome back. You're listening to Real Estate in Real Time. I'm Woody Zimmerman here with Mark Skubowski of Remax Lakes, and we're talking about home sales that have gone up after 9 of the last 11 presidential elections. Also, home prices went up after 7 of the last 8 presidential elections. Now, I think we're going to be talking about mortgage rates.
We're going to talk about rates. Rates are on the topic on everybody's mind, right? I mean, because if you listen to shows that we've done through this year, what has been one of the themes that I've talked about, rates are impacting what's going on.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. You know, people are they're buying with their pocketbook, right? They're buying a home. How much can I afford? How home prices are at historically high levels on average or median sales prices. They're higher. You know, wages haven't kept up. We had a couple of years with COVID where home prices were appreciating in our market, 15-20% per year.
Yeah.
You know, you bought 3 years ago, you sell for 50% of the value. 50% more than what you paid for it.
Right.
It's just been crazy. The housing market has been crazy, and if you have to finance that, mortgage rates, you're definitely going to be price sensitive because prices are higher, rates are higher, your payment's going to be higher.
Yeah.
So, you know, mortgage rates are a big deal. This year, they started, I don't know, we were almost 8% in January, February, and that's kind of where somebody turned the faucet off and stopped. You know, stuff going on. When we reported, I think at the end of April, things were not looking so good in Kosciuszko County. The end of May, things had looked up. I think if I remember correctly, it was 15-16%. The number sold. A lot of that was more, the number of homes sold was 15 or 16% higher. A lot of those were lake properties because the Syracuse zip code was about half of that increase given year over year in Syracuse in general. Not all. There's people that live, you know, on Huntington Street in Syracuse that are going, wait a minute, I don't live on the lake, I live in Syracuse. I get it, but the number of those homes typically are going to be lake properties that sold. So interest rates have decreased throughout the year, but we're still hovering around that 6. You know, I closed one not too long ago, 6 7/8. So how does this, you know, relate to presidential election years? Well, mortgage rates, the headline is mortgage rates decreased leading up to 8 of the last 11 presidential elections. 8 of the last presidential elections. And I'll let you hold that. Raj, take a look, put this up, or no, you go ahead. Okay.
I'm sorry.
So 1980. Rates went down 2%.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, they went up 2% in 1980, 12.19 to 14.21%. In
Yeah.
1980, that was when Reagan got
Oh,
elected.
yeah.
They increased 2%. 1984, they went down 1%. Listen to this rate, 14.67% to 13.64%.
Wow. Yeah.
So 14.67. So you and I, we're not just making this up when we're talking about, and I remember driving by signs and seeing mortgage rates at 17,
Yeah.
16, 17%.
I remember my parents talking about rates, and because my parents, they were trying to sell a house
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
time, and it was not a good situation for
Not,
them at all.
and we're thinking that 7's bad.
Yeah, right.
7's
Yeah.
bad. Now I get it. Prices are a lot higher, but wages have gone up too.
Right.
I know I've seen a newspaper ad because my dream car is a 1966 Pontiac GTO.
Oh boy! Now
My
you're
dad had
speaking
one.
my language.
My dad had one when I was growing up,
Yeah.
and I think that car was like in 1966 was like $3,500.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what the cost of the car was at
Right.
that time.
Yeah.
Different time. If you can find a mint 1966 GTO right now, that's a good investment.
Well,
Let's
yeah.
to have
Well,
that to
right.
go on. But I look at that. Wages were a lot lower. Home prices were a lot lower. All of that stuff.
Mhm.
But in each of the 8 of the last 11 presidential elections, home prices have decreased. So in 2020, rates were 3%. They dropped to 2.77%
Mhm.
before that election. And where we're at now, they're going to be up. When they do this chart again,
Yeah. They'll be
right,
up
there's
this
going to
time.
be
Yeah.
a significant increase.
Yeah.
Right? But what does that all say? Do presidential elections determine what's going on with the housing market? There is some influence on the housing market, I believe that, but is it the end all? Could I pick that one factor and say that's what's driving the housing market in the year leading up to the election? I would call BS on that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's
Right.
the case. I think the data is interesting, but I don't think the election is the reason for these things happening. I think it's the other stuff that we've talked about, how the presidential election impacts the economy. And that's where you can make that leap to where the election is driving some of this housing stuff.
Yeah.
The results of the election matter. Elections do matter.
Yeah.
The people that are elected, it does impact what happens going forward and afterwards.
Mhm.
So a lot of interesting information. Is it the end all? No. But I think it does show that election years, you as an American, use your right to vote, get out there and do it. I'm putting that out here now before we get to November. How's
Yeah.
that
Right.
sound? So, and I'll do that every week now.
Yeah.
But I think it's important that you do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, good stuff. Very good information. If you'd like to continue this conversation or any conversation with Mark, as far as buying a property or selling a property, make sure you reach out to him. Your contact info.
sure, the website's skabowskiteam.com. Phone number's 574-527-0660. Mark at skabowskiteam.com or check us out on YouTube.
All right, very good. You've been listening to Real Estate in Real Time. Have yourself a wonderful weekend.